Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Craft Your Life podcast. We are so excited this month to have the amazing Maymay with us. Welcome, Maymay.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
I am beyond honored to be on this podcast.
And
I just have to be honored.
we're so excited to have you on the podcast with us. It's so very exciting.
I am extremely excited, but we're having a good day. How about you?
Wonderful. It's a spring has sprung. I think it's here to stay. So,
Yes, it has here too. It's a little warm. It's in the. It's what's it over 80 today here where we're
wow.
at.
See, I'm in the
Hmm.
60s and that's like 80 here. So,
Yeah,
So who is Maymay? Introduced to our crowd if they have not heard Maymay before, which I don't know how, but
I'm sure there are many that have not. But that's a big open ended question. So who is Maymay? So I am Maymay. Clearly, I love to paper craft, and I've been on YouTube since 2011. I'm an OG. I like to say sometimes we say an OC, an old crafter.
yeah.
That's me. But I've been on YouTube. It feels like as long as I can remember, but honestly, I started when I was 40. So, which is crazy to me to think that I started YouTube at 40. I am I am a Christian. I love Jesus. I have a wonderful husband, Vinny. Most people know Vinny because he's on the show with me too. Um, as of today, I have 3 grandchildren. I had 2 yesterday. I have 3 today. Very exciting.
Gosh,
We had our first little boy grandson this morning at 5:30 a.m. Very exciting day for us.
gosh.
I have 4 sons, 3 daughter-in-laws, and maybe a future daughter-in-law. We'll leave it at that.
Nice, nice. I have a
That's me personally.
I have a daughter-in-law that is not technically my daughter-in-law, but we adopted her long ago as the daughter-in-law. So it's official on May 18th. We can officially call her the daughter-in-law. So
Oh, that's awesome. That's
yes,
awesome.
yes. And as you know, mother of the groom, getting dress fittings and all that. Oh goodness. But I think it's finally over. I think now is just we enjoy the wedding. So that's
I
the
love
exciting
being
point.
the God knew I should be the mother of the groom. Like, it's the thing for me. I'm good at that. Like, all the panic that I get to sit back and watch and
Yes.
all of the whirlwind, I like being mother of the groom. That's been pretty good. Actually, I like being a boy mom. I know boys.
Yes.
I don't know why. Well, I had brothers,
Yeah.
right? So that's why. But it works for me. So I get the mother of the groom part really well.
It was funny when she was doing my dress. She said, "You're going to be running around everywhere." I'm like, "I'm the mother of the groom. I really don't do anything. I just stand there."
That's it. That's it.
And so, yeah, so 2011 you went on YouTube, but how long have you been crafting?
Oh, since I was way young.
Yeah.
I, I hope I don't jump ahead, but I typically get the question, what was the first craft you ever did? People tend to ask that question. And I have racked my brain to remember this, but the first craft I can remember vividly, my grandmother took me to the store and bought me a latch hook kit. Remember those? And back in the day, we would make them and then turn them into pillows or throw rugs or whatever. And I remember that latch hook kit and thinking that was the coolest thing ever. And my grandmother was very artistic, so she was always feeding into the art side of things. She was a ceramic artist, actually. That's what she did for a living. Her and my grandfather made the molds and then poured the ceramics, and then she painted them. They had an incredible business. That's what they did. And so she was always encouraging me to be creative, and that's what I remember being my very first craft was latch hook,
You wanna
which I still like to do.
do you wanna hear something funny?
Yeah.
I just did latch hook a couple nights ago. So when you were talking
See?
about it, because my grandmother I did latch hook with my grandmother, and it's nice to have that bring her back a little bit with doing the latch hook kits. So
We did it in a class. We decided to bring back crafts from back in the day. This was years ago. We had a crafty cruise we went on, and one of the classes was latch hook, and it was a mystery class that people took, which was funny because first off, I'm like, if I tell you we're doing latch hook, you're not going to sign up. But when they got there, and we all had these latch hook kits, and we were all reminiscing because we all remembered it. And some of the cruisers that were with us, they made it their mission to finish that latch hook before getting off the ship, and they did. And it was the coolest thing. It was a lot of fun. So it's funny how latch hook brings us together.
and so many of us started there. I mean, we all started with the Crayolas and that too,
Right.
but there are other crafts that I think that so many of us started with, and I think that's a big one. I could never
Yep.
get knitting with the two-handed thing. Crochet is fine because it's one-handed. So,
I can't crochet. I have no tension control.
uh,
None.
well, yeah, I made a blanket, and it looks like a round rug. So I but
Hey, interpretation.
I basically said, "Thank you for the memories. Thank you for the yarn. This is where we part ways, and I'll start again."
Yes.
But I had good memories with it, so I think there's value in that. You know?
There is value in that, and, you learn your strengths and your weaknesses at the same time.
Now, what do you do now? Do you have other crafts that you do just for you?
Yes, I actually do. So, sewing, that's it. I love to sew. And it's funny because my first job in the crafting industry, I was 19 years old and I worked for a company called Peace Goods, which was sort of like a fabric store, like one of the big box fabric stores back in the day. Matter of fact, they were one of the major retailers and they might have just been in the South. I don't know. But I worked there at 19, I was their craft coordinator. So, my job right out the gate was to plan these Saturday morning workshops where people came in, and my favorite thing we ever did, do you remember banana clips? Everybody remembers the hair clips, and you took the wire and the ribbon and you wrapped and made the loops. That was one of the classes. I must have done that thing every Sunday for 3 months because it was so every Saturday. And I started doing that, and I picked up sewing way back then because we would make the samples for the store. Like
Okay.
we could pick a pattern, whatever we wanted to do, and the only requirement was we had to make it and then leave it in the store for 30 to 90 days so it could be a display, and then we could take it home. And I fell in love with sewing. And plus, I took every home ec course I could take. Like I've always been crafty, homey, like, home decor, all that stuff. But yeah, I started sewing then. Well, I lost my mom in 2021, and she was my hobby. And I tell people this all the time, like, mom really was my hobby. I would leave work, which is crafting. You get that. You craft all day.
Yeah.
And I'd call mom, and I spent hours talking to mom. And when she was gone, I was like, what am I going to do to fill my time at home?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're like me, now that we're in the paper craft, now it's my business, right? I don't want to paper craft at home,
Yeah.
but I do like to create,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So my husband was like, that we have a spare room, turn it into a sewing room. And I have a really good friend in town who owns a sewing store. She has the cutest little sewing shop. It's called So Charming, and it is so charming. And she started teaching me how to quilt, just telling me how to do it. And I've never quilted before. And now I'm hooked. You know why though? Because look, a quilt is just a big card.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
when I think about it, and even better than that, a quilt block, it's just like making 12 cards and then gluing them together.
Yep.
Except you have to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. There is that, right? But I love to sew, and it's become my second love, and it's not my first love, which I do like. Paper crafting's still my first love
Yeah.
because there's just something about gluing stuff together and making it work. It's a lot different than having to thread a machine and learn machines and all that kind of stuff too. So, yep, that's my other one.
And I love sewing. I wish I had more time for it because it does
Mhm.
when your paper crafting kind of becomes your job, you're like, okay, well, what do I do for me now? Like, what's my
Yep.
hobby? And it's kind of figuring out what fits and what doesn't fit. And I think I'm still working through that because I've got the latch hook rugs. I did a little crochet. I'm I'm like a kid that walked into a candy store hungry with, $100 in his pocket and everything's a penny. I'm like, I want to do this craft and this craft and this
Yep.
craft.
See,
So
I can be that way too.
yeah.
And I want to say this too, because if people are watching, like, oh, your job is paper crafting. But here's the thing about that, okay? I love that that's my job,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And I worked very hard to make it my job. And one of the things I love the most about my job is watching what my viewers enjoy, the projects they enjoy, right? And then leaning into that on our channel and trying to give them more and more and more of it. So it's not, I don't want anybody to think that I'm like begrudgingly doing my
No.
job. I love my job, right? I love my team. I love coming to work. But when you get home, you still want to create.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have that little, I mean, most paper crafters do more than just paper craft anyway.
Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think that you explained it perfectly. It's just finding that downtime for yourself.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
because it used to be that, you would come home from work and paper crafting was your downtime. And then
Exactly.
paper crafting slides over And it's like, what do you put in that spot that was
Exactly.
paper crafting? And so
Mhm.
it's finding, but I think as crafters, it makes us even better because we have more crafts. So we're more creative almost when we
Well,
have more.
do you find that I find, especially with quilting, so recently I started doing quilted cards on my channel and they have taken off.
What?
It's like my viewers cannot get enough of them. And it's so fun because I can fall in love with a block that I want to do in fabric, but I can do it in paper first
Yep.
and quicker,
Yep.
you know, and make it part. So I find that the creativity just kind of blends together. It's just the medium that changes,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Or I'm sure like you look at quilt fabric and you're like, I'm going to make this card with this color combo.
Exactly.
Perfect. It's a
Yep.
perfect because I think now where do you get a lot of inspiration besides like your quilting from the world around you? Where do
You
you
know,
find it?
okay, so for years it was my answer would be Pinterest and blah, blah, but the problem is I love Pinterest. I still am on it at least daily. But the thing is I feel like I see the same thing there when I go there because it feeds me what I like,
Yep.
right? I mean, that's how the algorithms work. So what I try to do is get out into like the world. And what I mean by that is I like to go to antique shops
Yep.
and look at old world things and new things and get inspiration from that. I love to go to home decor stores and see what's trending.
Yep.
Like it's surprising sometimes you can walk around like some of the big box home decor stores and see a picture and go, I can see that as a card,
Oh yeah.
or um, even clothing. But anytime I can get out, I will tell you the truth. We were at a local restaurant. One of our little we are our county is known for peaches. We're kind of
Mhm.
peaches are a big thing here. And people will stop to visit some of our big farmers markets. Well, one of our farmers markets decided to do kind of a modern upgrade to their location. And they started putting in these like wall pieces that they, grass walls and like Instagram worthy things,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Every one of them could be a card. I'm looking around the room going, "That's a card, that's a card, that's a card." And I love to get inspiration from anything outside of what we normally do,
Yeah.
right? Um, and also I love magazines. I find a lot, of inspiration in magazines. Just, a Christmas magazine or a fall magazine, not even crafty ones,
Oh no,
just
just yeah.
magazines.
Yep.
Mhm.
Especially fall, the colors in fall. OMG. I mean, just so pretty. The purples, the pinks, the orange, the red. I mean, really
Mhm.
almost every color's in there for
Yep.
fall, and it's like a free for all. Just throw in any color you can and it's so pretty.
You'll laugh too. I've literally been traveling and been in a hotel and taken a picture of the carpet.
I I'm known for, let me check my phone and I'm actually taking a picture of somebody's shirt because
Ye
I'm like, "Oh, that's gorgeous. I have that stamp set." Um
Yep.
and I've also bought pajamas because they look just like an Altenew stamp set. So I
There's no shame in that game.
I hope our viewers are all like, "Oh yeah, me too, me too. Yep, I did
You
it
know
too."
they are, you know they are.
Now speaking of that, how in this big, beautiful, crafty world did you find Altenew?
Okay. I love this question because it's making me think. And I've always watched Altenew. Like, it's always been, um, a product line I really loved, and I'll tell you, I had a graphic artist that worked for me. Her name was Mandy. People will remember Mandy. She loved Altenew. She was constantly telling me, you gotta try Altenew, and I'm like, I will," because I'm getting into this and we're trying out different lines and things. Well, then I'm just gonna tell you, the stamp wheel came out. This is the truth. This is how long it took me to jump on board. The stamp wheel came out and I was intrigued. The first time I saw it, I wanna say was an Instagram story.
Yeah.
I wanna say. And I was like, "What is this magic piece of equipment?" And first off, I'm a tool fanatic.
Yes.
Like, I love tools. So when I saw it and I instantly I like any tool that I can do 50,000 things with, right? And I instantly saw all the possibilities. I did not go, "Oh, it's only for making a wreath.
Yeah.
It's only for taking images." No,
Yeah.
it was incredible. And the other thing about Altenew product that I love is how they coordinate. Everything is so curated. And you don't have to have, I mean, you should have all the product,
Yeah.
but you don't have to have all the product. The other thing about the stamp wheel that got me was it was something I could put into my workflow and use with everything, with my stencils, with my inking, if I want to just use it to hold stuff in place. You know what I'm saying? Like, it could do so many things. It was the stamp wheel that made me go, "Okay, this has to come into our store." Yep.
It is. I the first day I saw it, I'm like, "No, no, it's
Mhm.
genius!" Like, I was
It is.
so
It's genius.
I was like, "How?" And I was just amazed at the versatility, and I feel like I'm always finding new things I can do with it or new ways it helps me, because 'cause I'm the gadget queen too. If there's a gadget, I
Mhm.
gotta have it. I gotta know
That's
how it
me.
works. I gotta play with it because I love gadgets. It helps make crafting easier, right? So, you
Yep.
gotta have
This
all
probably
the
looks like product placement, doesn't it? It's not product placement. Actually, we just did a contest in our, Made It group on our customer gallery where you could win this, and, I think that contest ends on the 30th. So not it's not ended yet, but or not as of filming of
Yeah.
this. But it's sitting here, it looks like, "Oh, they told her to do that." No, they didn't. We're giving this one away.
I just figured you had to have it close to you at all times, and
I
I
do actually have my stamp wheel close to me, my used one.
yes, see, I have so,
They're
I
so
totally
amazing.
understand. I was just like, "Girl, she's got hers right there with her too." Like, I get it. Now, what about the sticky mat? Are you in love with the sticky mat too?
I love the sticky mat. I adore it. I love it in okay, let me show you. Also, not product placement. This is just a thing. I love it in the stamp wheel, but I also ooh, didn't mean to be loud. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I put it on my this is the rotating dealie. It won't rotate
Oh,
in my hand because I get do you know this thing?
yep, yep.
Okay, I put one of the Altenew mats on it so that I can put my stencils on it and spin them, turn them, whatever I want to do. And my viewers have loved this. And this is the same. This sticky is the remind me. There's an ultra, right? There's an ultra sticky, and then
A low tack.
this is the ultra.
Yeah,
This is the same one that comes in the stamp wheel, right? When you get it's the ultra,
yeah,
and I love it. It's so I can put it on my glass mat and it won't move.
yeah.
I can put it on my trimmer. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it'll stick to this if I want to use it as a platform. I love it.
It's and now the 9 by 12 is like, huh, like, you can have your
Yep.
stencil, you can have your inks, you can have the big stencils and your inks. It's like a dream come it's like you have a dream, it's a dream is a wish your heart makes. I know that's a quote from
Yep.
Disney, so thank you, Disney, but it also is, true for us crafters. We have this, "I wish I had a bigger sticky mat," and somehow it appears. It just you wake
I
up and
love it.
there it is. It's like
I love it. I also love the durability of it. I don't know that people realize, photopolymer is very durable.
yeah,
That's one reason we love it for stamps.
yes,
But it's so amazing because we can get ink on it, we can clean ink off of it, we can leave stains. We don't mind stains. Photopolymer's porous. We don't mind stains. It means it's well loved,
yes,
right?
yes,
I love there is that is one of those products where I would have to say the genius behind it was so well thought out because it can carry over into so many
yeah,
things, you know?
yeah. And it
Mhm.
is.
I love it.
It's so much fun. Now, what are some of your other favorite? Because you like tools, what other kinds of tools do you like?
From just Altenew?
Well, let's do Altenew first. We'll do Altenew
Okay.
first, yes?
The brushes, the detail brushes. I know they're not really a tool, but I
Well, they
love
are.
them.
Yes, tool, definitely.
Love them because if I one thing I like about them are the multiple sizes, like the smaller set. I think it's hang on, this one, this little guy, the detail
Yeah,
brushes. So what I love about them is when I say I do like an embossed background, I did this the other day. I can take just one of these brushes and just touch places like centers of flowers and leave the rest just embossed. And the impact is so pretty. And also these they feel normal in your hand. They don't feel like you're holding, there's a place for the ones that fit in your palm and things like this,
yeah,
but this feels almost like a paintbrush.
yeah, or a
The
pencil. It's
yeah,
just comfortable. It rests beautifully.
not to mention the bristles, like, they're incredible.
Yes.
I love them. If no one's seen them, here they are. And the silky what I'm sure there's a name for that, the handle, the way it feels, because it feels like silk.
I it does, and it feels like your hand's been missing it all those years. It just fits
It really
perfectly, and
does.
it's so soft, and it's so it's good to hear from another tool lover, to, hear what your some of your favorite tools what's another one of your
The
favorite tools? Any tool, anywhere.
any tool well, I love embossing folders, and y'all have incredible embossing folders because I wanna emboss everything that sits still.
Yes.
Like, I just love embossing.
What's your favorite
Um
technique to do with embossing?
You know, you're gonna think this is a cop out. It is not. It is literally my favorite. I love to take I love to make a colored card base
Yep.
and cut a mat in the same color
Yeah.
and emboss that and then pop it up and get that tone on tone.
Oh, yeah.
That's my favorite, but I also like to do ink dragging over embossing. I like to just drag that ink pad over
Yeah.
and see what develops. That's always fun because I love a mystery. I'm into those kind of things. Um, but I love anything embossing. You'll be shocked. I'm not as big of a dye lover as some people are.
Mhm.
Dyes and me, we have like a love-hate relationship. I love them. They hate me. So that's okay. No, I'm not as big into dyes. I do love dyes, but embossing for me would be my choice over that. So embossing is every folder. When we were at Creativation and we were walking through the booth and I'm just like drooling over every single folder, it was just beautiful. Just love it.
I'm glad, and I love that you just mentioned that technique where you cut the colored cardstock and the other cardstock and you layer them together, because I think people forget about that, but it is such a gorgeous effect, and it's so simple. If
So
you
simple.
know when your husband's like, "Oh, babe, we're going to a party. Susie needs a card, it's her birthday," and you're like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's a perfect technique.
And
You.
it looks chic.
It does.
That I guess or curated. It looks like it was planned, and I love that, and you don't need anything.
No.
You need nothing to make that one happen. I love it.
And you could even ink blend. If you have 2 sheets of white cardstock, my friends, just use some ink tools, ink blend it on there, and you're good to
You're
go.
exactly right. That would be beautiful.
Now,
Yep.
are you loving the stencils? Are the stencils taking over your world as well?
They're starting to. Stencils and me were okay, so funny story. So my mother, back in the day, I must have been 13. She decided to stencil her kitchen. And because I was crafty, she thought this is a great project for us to do. 4 weeks later, that's what it felt like it took. It did take a long time. We had stenciled strawberries everywhere, every cabinet door facing, the soffit above the cabinets. She had made custom placemats to match. It was strawberries
And
everywhere.
they're
And
little.
I had oh my goodness.
Little.
It was a three-piece stencil about this big. We did all around the room. I had the worst take when people would say stencil, I'm like, "No, I'm not a stenciler. I don't wanna look at a stencil. I don't wanna touch a stencil." And I was that way for a very long time. And I don't remember what got me there was a stencil that we got in something. I don't remember what it was, maybe in a class kit or something. And I'm like, "Okay, let me just do this." And I was like, "Okay, it's fine." But what changed it for me was when all the new brushes came out,
Yeah,
when all the gorgeous ink blending brushes and made things so easy.
yeah,
But then what's really changed the game is sticking a stencil down to that stamp wheel. It changes the game. That mat and even putting it in the stamp wheel and having it where I can line it up in the corner,
yeah.
layer them up, it changes the game. Let's be honest, Simon has changed it too, showing how to use that and the way he does with his lunar paste and all that kind of stuff, which by the way is coming. I see, and also you need to know this about me. You probably should have known this before the podcast. I'm always behind a trend. I'm never on trend. I'm like the least trendy person you'll meet.
Me
So
too.
like all the paste, I find them later. All the cool things I do later. So all that's coming. But I do love it. I love the stencils because well, I love them now
Yeah,
because of all the layers and all the things that are created for us.
yeah.
But, when we had to do the ink blending and make that look like that, I was not good at that. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Mhm.
When you had to work now they take the work it's like the layering stamps. The layering stamps changed the game too, right?
They did.
Because we had
Mhm.
those and we had to kind of figure it out and make it look we had to color it. We had to do something to it to make it look like that.
Yep.
And then you stamped 4 layers and you looked like you could touch a flower on your paper and we were like, "Oh my
Mhm.
gosh." And then stencils did it. So now, I think even though you had trauma from your youth
I
with
did.
strawberries, so we will never buy Maymay a strawberry stencil.
No, actually, it's one of my favorites are
Oh, is
strawberries
it?
now. But the truth of the matter is, when I had to do all the blending and I had to do all the shading,
Yeah.
it was a they were not something for me. I'm a quick crafter. I don't have a
Yes.
whole lot of time.
Yeah.
I wanna sit down and craft and move on. But now that I can just go layer 1, layer 2, and I get all the shading, and when it's done, it looks like I'm an artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
I my tagline is "Altenew makes me look good," because,
It
I mean,
100%.
these stencils, like please. I mean,
Yep.
sometimes and if you do it with a no line, it makes you look like an artist, and you're like people I had somebody say, "Oh, did you draw that?" And I'm like, "Gosh, no.
No. No.
I can't draw a stick man with a ruler and a pen, my friend, so no, I did not."
I love that.
It just but I'm glad because yeah, I mean, it's such a and now embossing folders and stencils seem to be BFFs, right? Like,
Yes,
a
they
lot
do.
of them have coordinating things, and then the dye comes on the scene as well, and maybe the dyes will start showing you some more love. Maybe get the more love from the dyes.
I'm enjoying it. I found another product that I'm really enjoying that has dyes with it, and it's a simple process, and so I'm enjoying that, but I do think I'm just behind trends. I am not trendy.
Me either. For with anything, with anything, yeah, I'm just not trendy. I like to see the trends develop.
I do too.
I my spirit animal is the sloth, I think. So I kind of just watch, see what's going on, take it in, and then I go. So I'm always overthinking. So I just that's the process. I'm overthinking. I see the trend. I'm like, oh, great trend. Let's go. I love it. Let's enjoy
I
it.
overthink too. I do that too. Yeah.
Now what? So we're loving the stencils. Do you watercolor or
Mm-mm,
no? No.
mm-mm.
Is there a
I'm not
reason?
good at that. I think it's the whole art. When I was coming up, watercoloring was fine art.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
So I always steer cleared of it because I knew I was not a fine artist.
Yes.
And so, can I use water in my crafting? Yes, but I typically don't. I'm more of a person, and my viewers, if there's any made it's watching, they're like, no, she doesn't like water. She just literally last week or 2 weeks ago sprayed my first piece of cardstock before putting it in an embossing folder because
Nice.
I'm anti that, right? I thought I was.
Yeah.
And they laugh at me. They're like, just they'll yell on the screen, spray it with water. And I'm just like, not that person. But I do think it has to do with our upbringing because I really did. I don't know what made me do it, but I really thought watercolor was for fine artists
Yeah.
and you had to understand color theory and
Yeah.
how this water reacts with this on this page and it wasn't for me. But I see people using it in card making and it's fascinating to
Yeah.
watch. But it's never I don't know, it's not my thing. I don't ache to do it. I ache to run things through that embossing machine.
Now do you splatter? Do you splatter on your embossing folders?
No, because
No.
it's messy.
Okay. So you're
See, you just learned something. You just pulled something out of
you're a
me.
non-messy crafter, but you
This feels like therapy.
well, I am a social work student, so
You see,
it kind of fits.
you can't get away from it.
It's okay.
That's funny.
No, so but pastes, you mentioned pastes and pastes border messy depending well, I'm a
Except that
messy
you can
crafter, so
control them.
you can what?
But you can control
You
them.
can. You can because you put a
I
blob
tell
and it
them where
doesn't
to
move.
pay. Mhm. Mhm. Right. Right. So you'll love this. So in our organization, we have several different crafters that work with us, and everybody has their style. And my friend Brenda, I consider her my fine artist in the Maymay organization. So if we're going to do watercolor, she's the one to do it. Well, we were doing Christmas in July, and I think we were doing a tag a day for like 30 days, something like that. And to make that happen, we all split it up like a design team. We all took different days. Well, I had left my desk and she was working at my desk. And when I came back, there were white splatters of paint all over my computer screen, the whole thing. And I was like, Brenda Berry's been here, hadn't she? Like, I just knew it because it wasn't me. And I kid you not, to this day, I will find white splatters that
Yeah.
were left on my computer.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just not me. And I'm like, and I even said to Shannon, who is my assistant for anybody who's watching who doesn't know,
Mm.
I was like, Shannon, she needs a box. Let's get her a box next time. She just splattered because Brenda just does that. She doesn't care. Right. And I was mortified. My whole computer was covered.
I highly recommend a puppy pad because the puppy pad folds flat, right? You splatter. She could
Yeah.
cover your computer screen with it, splatter.
That's a really good
And then it just
idea.
folds right up into a little tiny square, goes away. It's not a big box you have to have. That's what and it protects stuff because my lights may or may not have a rainbow of splatter colors on it,
See,
which is
you and
fun. They're
Brenda would get
lights,
along
right?
just fine. Y'all would get along just fine.
But you don't want your computer. You don't want that's the one thing
No,
you
it was
don't want
rough.
to
It
get.
was everywhere. But I like the puppy pad idea. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it works great. I've been doing it for years now, and I really like it. 'Cause at first I thought, wait, it's got plastic. It's okay. Like I was putting it together, and I'm like, give it a whirl, and I've really enjoyed it because it takes a lot of water or spray, and it
It's a good
keeps
idea for kid
going.
crafting.
Yes, yeah, because
Never thought of that. That's a good
they
idea.
don't have like that plastic tablecloth that moves on them. It's got a nice surface that you can. So it's yeah, and I I like to think I'm a clean crafter. I don't do a lot of messy techniques, like, I love pastes. I
Yeah.
own probably every paste that has ever been invented. I use them sparingly because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, I gotta clean it up after, right? I
Yes.
gotta get it off the
Yes.
stencil, and I gotta get off the thing," and so I'm like, I could stencil with ink, and ink I can just spray off, so I'm like you, I'm like, "It's quicker to just use the ink, and let's go that way," so
I love ink. Ink is
yeah,
convenient. Maybe it's because, you get used to something. I know what I'm gonna get with ink.
yeah,
I understand its properties. I understand which one to use where. Once you get there,
yeah.
I didn't do it at first. At first, I was constantly like, "Which ink? Which
Yes.
ink for what?" But now that I understand it and I try to teach it, it's so I know what I'm gonna get,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
for the most part, and I can handle ink.
And I remember, like, when I started, the one of the first things I fell in love, even before I looked at the stamps, were the ink pads because there were
Mhm.
4 of them. They were in order. You had a light, 2 midtones, and a dark tone, and I was like,
Yep.
"Oh, I don't have to think, and it looks beautiful. Okay." And then, as you graduate more, you're like, "Oh, let me pull this color," and you start mixing them up and magic like you said, you get more confident, you build up,
Yep.
and you kinda mix, but that was one of my favorite things were those 4 ink pads that I knew went together. I didn't have to think. And as a new crafter, that's intimidating sometimes just picking
Yeah.
ink colors.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, what do you have for advice for, let's say we have somebody who has never crafted before out there and they're like, "This sounds like fun." What do you have for advice?
I have the worst advice ever. You ready? It's really the best advice, but people will think it's the worst advice. Here's what I say. Don't skimp on your product. Let
Right.
me explain what I mean. So, if you want to learn stamping, don't buy a pack of dollar
No.
blocks because they're not we don't even use them because they're not consistent even for us.
Yeah.
You know, um I always tell people first and foremost with technology, you should buy the newest technology you can afford, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of the same thing with this. I remember when I started stamping, ages ago, and I'd go buy dollar blocks and dollar ink, and I just wouldn't get the results. I'd be
Yeah.
like, all these people are doing this beautiful work on YouTube, and I'm getting splotches and smears and halos and all that kind of stuff. And so I always say, if you can afford to start out with a stamp positioner,
Yeah.
you will enjoy stamping.
Yeah.
If you can afford to start out with a good trimmer, you will enjoy it. And there's so many products out there that just they're fine, but they don't have the quality of some of the more name brand stuff, and you don't really spend that much more when you think about it. Because 'cause I've actually talked to some of my audience about it, and they're like, I can't tell how much money I wasted
Yes.
buying those things to try it out,
Yeah.
when if I'd have tried with these things, I would never given it up."
Yeah.
So that's why I say it feels like bad advice because 'cause I'm saying spend money, but the truth of the matter is I'm saying invest,
Yes. Yes.
and then if it's not for you, there is a crafter who will take
Yes.
those good products off your hand.
Yeah.
I mean, you can sell them, you can pay them forward,
Yeah.
make them a gift. I wouldn't want to gift, dollar blocks to a seasoned stamper,
Yeah.
but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think we just do ourselves a disservice when we go, "Oh, let me just try this out." It's the same with sewing,
Yeah.
or any craft. If you try to if you try to cut fabric with, kindergarten scissors, it's not gonna work.
No.
You're gonna hate that craft.
Yes. And you're
That's
gonna
what I'm
say, "I'm
saying.
horrible at it," when you're really not. It's really and I think that's the best advice you can give, really,
Good,
because
good.
I fell into that trap. I went when I started, I bought, a scrapbook kit at a big box store when my son was little, and then I started going to another big box store and getting the dollar ink pads and the dollar stamps, the dollar blocks. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this doesn't look like what I'm seeing on
It
YouTube.
doesn't
I must be horrible at this. And I just am stubborn. So I stuck with it. And then you see, okay, if I save up and invest in a few supplies that I think are versatile to me, I can really have something here. And that's kind of what I did was I started, okay, what works in my life? What would work for me that would be versatile? I could use a lot of different things for. And that so
Mhm.
that I find that as excellent advice because we all get excited a
You said
dollar,
it.
like a dollar.
Right, but you said it. You start to say you're not good at it.
Yeah,
You blame yourself
yeah,
when okay, so you and I know this. If I have a handheld block and I'm using a silicone type stamp or an acrylic type, it's a different product. Can I stamp with it? Yes. It just needs to be used differently.
yes,
But if I bought this 29-cent stamp and I go to stamp it and I just get a big blobby halo,
yeah,
I think it's me.
yes,
And that's such a good way to put that.
yeah.
So good.
Yeah. So look at the it's not you. It's not you.
It's
I
not you.
promise it's not
It's not
you.
it's not you. That's right.
And that's one of the things I loved so much about Altenew as I was coming up through was that they have sales every week, like 50, 45, 50% off sales. There's always something on sale. So I would just
Mhm.
wait. I would lurk. I mean, it was like 11:59 and I would pounce on the website like, "Oh, what's
Yeah.
on today?" And that's how I built up my collection over time was I just waited and lurked, so to speak, for the good craft supplies to come out. But
Yep.
it was worth the investment, and I liked how you said it's an investment in yourself, and it is.
Yeah. Well, you're never sad about it. Like
Yeah,
I never look I will never regret the money I spent on my stamp wheel.
yeah,
I might regret money I spend on, I don't know, maybe one day I buy a pack of paper that I'm like, "What was I thinking?"
yes,
But I mean, at some point I'll be able to use that,
yes,
you know? But like a tool or something I know can carry me. I mean, you think about it, if you bought a stamp wheel today to start stamping, you may not ever need another block or positioner ever.
absolutely.
It's big enough to hold your background stamps.
Yeah,
It's big enough to do your stenciling with, that's what I mean by make an investment in a tool that works, and I love what you said. You made it more poignant when you said, "Don't blame yourself, it's not you."
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And the great thing is too is that it's fun to have all the gadgets and tools. Maymay and I know we're tool gals, but you can start with like she said a few very specific tools that will help you in your crafting and then build your tool arsenal as
I
things
mean, we
grow.
didn't start out I didn't start out with all the tools, and
No.
I know that there's people might think, well, companies send you stuff all the time. That's not really how it works. I mean, not for me, not for the way I do things. So I collect these tools and I enjoy them and I have quite the collection, but it took me years.
Yeah.
I remember vividly, this is maybe too much information, but I remember this. It was Christmas and my husband was like, "What do you want for Christmas?" And I said, "Listen, all my family always wanted to buy me something, but it was never what I wanted because they
Yes.
don't know crafting."
Yeah.
And I said, "Would you let me go to the craft store and take some pictures of some things I can't afford
Yeah.
that I would love if I could get 1 or 2 of them for Christmas?" And he was like, "We would love to do that. We want to give you what you want, right?" So I went to the craft store and I think I took pictures of like 5 things. And I remember when I opened a present from my son and it was my first crocodile. I nearly cried. I had gotten a tool
Yeah.
I would never be able to buy myself or just I had 4 boys in school. I
Yeah.
couldn't do that. And he gave me that as a gift. And I literally to this day, I don't have that very same one. I still have one. And it reminds me every time I pick it up that it was something that he invested in me.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's not a tool that I will use for 10 days. I would use it for 10 or 20
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
So you don't lose any money doing that.
And that what a great idea for a lot of crafters have the same problem where
Mhm.
their spouse, partner, children, family are like, I don't my mom would be like, "Can you just put it in a cart and I'll give you a card number?"
Okay, so
Because but I like the picture thing because they pick it out, they do it.
yeah,
That's awesome. I love that.
but we'll do the cart thing. I love this. So our maid, they're pretty connected to us, right?
Mm.
So at Christmas time or before, we'll have husbands or family call us and they will say, "What have they purchased?" And we'll go look at their purchase history and they'll say, "We want to get her something like this." We're like, "Well, she's got that, so maybe consider that." And we will literally help them do that. And how handy is that, right?
That's so
Like, I
cool.
mean, personal shoppers.
Yes.
And we will do it and we love it because then what we hear from our maidens is, "You helped them get exactly what I wanted.
Oh,
It's exactly," and we get to enjoy that with them.
yeah.
And it's pretty cool what we're able to do to help them out with technology because we can keep up with what you've ordered, or you can call in and say, "Do I have this stamp set?" You do. You got to dig it out. You can't find it. You know what I'm saying?
I have an app that keeps track of all of that stuff because
Yes.
I
Yes.
you're like, "Oh, yeah, no, I don't have that." You order it, and then you go to put it away, and you're like, "Whoops,
There
I
it
have
is.
2." It's hard to keep organized sometimes. How
It
are
is.
you with organization?
I'm really bad at it, but Shannon's really good at it.
Would Shannon like to
We
come to
just
Maine? No.
I'm the person who just today I did this. I was working on a project before we came on here, and I was like, "Shannon, do we have 4x6 index cards?" And she's like, "I have some in my personal stash. I will go get them and bring them to you." And like that's how that happened. She's very organized. I can say, "Where's this?" and she can find it.
That's terrific. I'm working
Mhm.
on that. I'm working on my inner Shannon.
I say everybody needs a Shannon.
Now, what are some of your biggest influences in your crafting?
What or who? What?
We could do what or who. We do the 6 degrees of crafty Kevin Bacon here. So, what or
Okay.
who? Yes.
I'm gonna say what is it to fill a need. I don't like to craft without a need. Okay, so I like to create something that fills a gift or a memory or I like to create something for a purpose,
Yes.
right? And I love to show people how to make a gift or how to make a keepsake. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's something that inspires me.
Yep.
Um, we're working on a recipe album now. I love the thought, and I love when people do this when they make like a recipe album and they use their handwriting,
Yep.
because when you aren't with us anymore, we want to see your handwriting.
Yep.
And people are, "Oh, my handwriting's horrific." Yes, but it's yours.
Yes.
And when you're gone, people love handwriting so much they get it tattooed on them when you're gone,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I say, write those recipes. Don't worry you don't have a printer. I know what fonts look like.
Yes.
I want your handwriting, right? So I love to be inspired by there's a need. I have a present that I need. There's something I want to preserve, something like that. If that makes sense.
It does. Funny you should say that. I actually have a couple of recipes my husband wrote that I have on the fridge that I look at every day, 'cause it has
See?
his handwriting. So and I'm like, "I
Mhm.
should frame these because I don't want them to
Yep.
fade," and so I think I'm gonna copy them and then frame them. But it's something that we don't think about in our day to
Mhm.
day because it's like, "Oh, it's my handwriting is awful, it's atrocious,"
Mine is
but
terrible.
it's priceless. There are points
Mhm.
in time where it's priceless to see that handwriting and have that memory, which is amazing, and it's
Mhm.
amazing you can give that, to your crafters.
Mhm.
And so what else, do you have what do you have for, an advanced crafter? What do you have for advice for an advanced crafter?
Don't overwhelm yourself. You can't do everything.
Good one.
Um, as an advanced crafter, even for me, I tend to not let myself do just what I love. I feel like I have to be doing the new thing and the new thing and the new thing,
Sure.
and I don't have to do that.
Yeah,
If I just wanna make a one-layered stamp card, it's allowed,
yeah.
you know? But I think we think, "Oh, I've been doing this too long for that. I can't send somebody that card. They would expect more." Let yourself do what you wanna do. Create what you wanna create. Um, I that's what I see a lot of our advanced crafters do, and they're trying to get the new thing and the new thing, and we put that pressure on ourselves.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you can create a lot of stuff with what you got, you know?
Yep.
Um, now I'm all about building a stash. If you were in my room, you would see that.
Oh, here too.
But but still, I think it's okay to let ourselves um do the oldies but goodies. Latch hook if you want,
Yes.
you know? Yeah.
Now, do you keep a stash of these are never leaving me, like, I'm hugging these group of products with you, that you use super frequently?
Yes. I have my ride or die tools. They're going nowhere, you know?
Yes. Do you have stamp sets and embossing folders too that are in that same kind of category?
Now I have my own line of stamps.
Yes, yes.
So, there are certain ones of them that I tell my viewers too, "This one's gonna stay on your desk. It's never leaving. You're gonna use it." There are certain ones of them that matter of fact, one of our newest stamp sets, I could literally put it on a chain and wear it around my neck and use it everywhere I go. There are some like that,
Yeah.
and I just and then there's some that I have used so much that it almost feels like I can't do a project without it. Like, we have a stamp set called Action, and you'll remember this. Back in the day, when people first started designing interactive cards,
Yes.
right? People were like, "We need stamps that tell the person what to do."
Yeah.
Remember?
The pull
Pull and
push.
push and
Yeah.
twist and all that. And we made one called Action. And that stamp set is one that if I go somewhere, if I have to pack up, it's going with me,
Yeah.
right? See, that's how I think. So what are my ride and die? Ride or die. If you're going to a crop, what's going in the suitcase?
Yeah.
That's what you think of, right?
Yeah, because we usually play this game, so you kind of led into it.
Oh, okay.
Not the words are coming. The words are coming. Our
Okay.
viewers and listeners know. But if you could only take 5 things with you in a crafty bag, what would you bring?
My paper trimmer,
Yep,
my pokey tool,
that's a good one.
my favorite glue.
Yep,
Um, I'm looking around my table here. Oh, my ruler, my favorite ruler.
yep.
I can't go anywhere without that. And fussy cutting scissors.
That's a good selection, especially since the dies are attacking.
Yeah, I bet people say my embossing machine and blah blah. Because I'm a person, I'm still kind of a purist. That's the thing.
It's
I
it's
need to get out of that
it's
mode.
the old crafter in us, we didn't have because I've it's been 30 years, Maymay,
Yep.
and, we didn't have these gadgets. We had
Mm-mm.
dies that were this thick that you could cut, and you saved
And you
for
said,
months to buy them because they were so expensive, and now
yes.
we have these little paper thin metal dies that cut, and so it's yeah, so I
Do
think
you remember storage? Do you remember what storage was like?
oh, yeah, I had those twirly I always have for some reason, I always have apparently, I like twirly things. I
You
had the
like twirly
twirly
things?
ones back in the day, you would stick the
Me
colored
too.
ones in, you could spin them. So I had those, but yeah, it was like it was crazy, and then you couldn't take that machine to a crop because it was so
No.
heavy.
No, and it never failed. Someone at a crop would have one
Yes.
that we shared
Yeah.
because you couldn't travel with it.
No.
And do you remember storing your wood block stamps?
Oh, that was I now, please, I have woodblock stamps up in my
I do
office.
too.
I love them. I have some in these drawers. I have a drawer full of my favorites, but
Me too.
storing those it was I think the definition of insanity because you could
Yep.
never find I mean, people the best way, I just didn't have the space. The best way, people had, like, those rails, and they
Those
went
rails on the wall.
all up, and they were so gorgeous. I just didn't have room.
Gorgeous.
So, I was
Mhm.
always, like, drawers and things like that, and you always changed it, like, every 6 months, you're like, "This isn't working," and then
Not
you'd
working.
put them in a package, or you'd put them in alphabetical order, or then you'd
Yep.
stamp out binders and put them in boxes, and you'd go in the bo I mean, it was a never ending, and now we have these tiny little stamp sets that we can fit everywhere,
Everywhere.
It's
I mean, we can
amazing.
easily go to a crop and take 30 stamp sets and it
Yes.
be no big deal. 30 wood blocks would have been a whole suitcase.
Oh, goodness. Yes, but I mean, I still love them for the aesthetic too, like, it's the old crafter in me, I think they're just it just gives you a warm, cozy feeling seeing
They're
them.
like that. They're like those antiques you pick up and just put around. But I'll tell you this about them, and I still believe this. I teach a class called Stamping 101, and the first thing I say is, "You'll never beat a wood block
No.
stamp. There, you'll
Yeah.
never be able to beat it. First, you can't ruin it,
Yep.
and I mean, it's very hard to ruin it.
Yes.
And secondly, you can't beat the image you get from it.
Yeah.
But it has its
Yeah.
downsides, you know.
And I mean, I think we have a lot of tools now that we're pretty close
We're pretty
to
close.
the starting at the way back at the beginning 20 years ago. It was really hard to get a
It was
similar
very
image,
different then.
but
Yeah,
now I think we're getting. We're
we're
there. I
good.
think we're pretty even there.
I don't miss it. I don't miss the image,
I miss
but
I like having the few reminders, but I can't imagine storing.
no.
If so, let's say we went to sleep tonight and tomorrow we woke up and all of our photopolymer were wood. I would be smothered. I would be buried in my house in wooden sticks.
I cannot imagine what that would look like if I came in here because, I mean, if you do the math, you think about it. On any given stamp set, you're gonna have probably a minimum of 14 stamps,
Yes. I was
and
looking
that's just a 4 by 6
that's
size.
just the little one. That's not
Yeah,
even, I mean, we have, I was looking, we have our 6 by 8s. Could you imagine? So you've got what? One, two, three, four, five, six. That's six images. then all the
Big.
words.
Mhm.
So we've got, let's say, another 10. So there's 16 blocks right there.
It's the world is so different now, isn't it?
It is. Did you ever dream this? Did you ever envision this? No. No.
I remember the first clear stamps that came out. I mean, we called them clear stamps, and
Yes.
we were skeptical,
Yep.
remember?
Yep.
Of course we were.
Yep.
But I'm gonna have to have all those blocks. Remember all the words we said?
Yes.
I'm have but the first time I used one, my eyes were opened. I was like, "This is the new way. We are going this way." And I'm like you, I still have my woodblock stamps and I love them. I have some that I'll never ever get rid of
Yep.
because they're gorgeous,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But there's only so many I can hold.
Yes. Yes.
So,
And the Stamp-A-Majig. You have to have the Stamp-A-Majig with your woods. I still have one in my drawer. It's an
I
oldie but
still have
goodie.
one too because I teach. So I don't bring it out as much in the class. The class I teach called Stamping 101, we used to start with this is what a positioner
Yep.
was. Like we would do that and I love that. I love that you still have one too. That's cool.
Now, what's your favorite thing about designing?
Okay, so I don't know if you know this or not, but we do a scripture line.
Yep.
So we have I have a what we call an original set and then our scripture set. I love I love and I also hate, okay, because I've created this to myself. I love the challenge of taking scripture and making it modern. So what I mean is I never want our scripture stamps to feel like old vacation Bible school, old 1978 Bible school. You know what I'm saying? It's not a scroll and a lantern and you know what I'm saying? And I don't mean to sound preachy here or anything, but like I believe the word of God is alive, so it's modern, right? So when we're doing those stamps, I try very hard to take modern images and add the scripture to it. And I try to be respectful,
Yep.
you know, but God is an everyday. So it's really cool to be able to do that in that set. But then the other thing I love about design is taking those same sets and finding ways to make them work with our original stuff. So everything we're designing, we're constantly trying to like we never make a stamp set that we don't reference 20 of our other
Yep.
sets. You know, we don't go back and go, "Will this work? You know, have we done this before? Let's make sure if we do this again, let's make sure it works together
Yep.
or what have you." I love that. And I always like and I don't know if this is a thing that you guys think when you're designing, but I like the hook. Okay, so I don't want a stamp set just to be a stamp set. I want it to do something else. Just like with our tools, I want it to um I don't know how to describe that, but like if I'm doing like if we're making a border stamp,
Yep.
I want it to not just fit on a 4 1/4 card. I want to be able to make it for a slimline card too with
Yep.
that same stamp.
Yep.
I love the challenge of, like I say, I love and I hate it because sometimes I put so much pressure on myself thinking I need this serious hook. And then we release a stamp set that's all words and it's the most popular thing we've released ever. Right? So that's what we do to ourselves.
And that's the one you're, like, overthinking the most, is that
That's
one,
it.
and then it comes out and you're like, "Why did I overthink this?
It
This is great." And
Yep.
it seems like designing is like a big puzzle because you want everything to you want it to be different, you want it to stand on its own, be its own piece, but you also want it to work together as a family of product as well,
Yeah.
so, yeah, and that's
And you want people to be able to use it. That's
yeah,
another thing. I mean, I could do a lot with photopolymer. You know this. You guys do stamps. You can do a lot with it.
yeah,
But if it's really hard to get the result,
yeah,
like you have to make sure it's a usable product in the end for every customer,
yes.
you know. So that's one thing to it. But I think it's fun. I think it's fun I like hearing from the maidens. By the way, we call our audience the maidens, by the way. We just do. So I like hearing from the maidens. I like hearing when they love something or I even like hearing when they say, this didn't work well for me.
Yes.
And it helps me to know next time what to do better.
Yep, yep. What made you decide to go into designing?
Okay, so remember, I'm an OG. I've been around a
Yeah,
while. Okay, so when in 2011, YouTube had been around what is that 7 years maybe? It hadn't been around very long. And I watched YouTube and I enjoyed it. I watched these folks, all the OGs that have been around longer than me. There are some, believe it or not. People don't believe it, but there are. But the ones who've been around longer than me, they're doing all this crafting and they're designing. And I remember specifically my pink stamper, Robin. I
yes,
remember her specifically.
yep,
And I remember when she started doing her own stamp line. And also Tanner Bell did, all back in the day, right? It's crazy to think he's OG, by the way, because he's so young, but still. When they were making their own stamps, I remember saying to my husband, I think I can do this. And he was like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how they're doing it, but I think I can figure this
Yeah.
out." And I really wanted to because I wanted to feel the need. I mean, you know this too. You and I, we both, Altenew has gorgeous stamp sets. I feel like we have gorgeous stamp sets, but we're all our own type.
Yeah.
We all have our own market.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to fill a market gap for me
Yeah.
is what it was.
Yeah.
And so I went to learning how to do it. I'm not a graphic artist. I don't know the first thing about technology.
Yeah.
You know, my graphic artist I have now, see, that's another thing. I did them by myself for years. And then when we were able to hire a graphic artist and I could bounce ideas off of somebody, it was incredible. It was me and a computer for years.
Yeah.
You know, and then to be able to have her, and then now we have our second graphic artist. It's incredible for me to be able to just kind of sit back and point and say, edit this, fix that, blah blah blah. But it's still my idea going on the
Yeah.
page. But for me, it was I saw people doing it, and I was like, I think I can do this. It took me a long time to convince my husband because you know, with manufacturing, you can't manufacture one and try it out.
No. No.
You got to jump in both feet.
Yeah.
And he was like, "We can't afford it. We couldn't afford to do it." And I was like, "Please." And I think our investment was $150, like, honestly, but this is, like I said, back in the day.
That's a lot. Yeah.
It was a lot. I mean, it was a utility bill, it was a
Yeah.
grocery bill, and I was like he's like, "I will try this." And I had tried everything under the sun, so he was nervous. And he's like, "I will try this." He said, "But if we buy these stamps, you have to sell them.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have a choice. You have to sell them." And so the pressure was on. But that's the thing, I couldn't just go, "Let me make one stamp set and see if I like it before I bring it to the public." I had to make sure I did it right,
You were
you
in the
know?
lake, like, you jumped
You
in.
you jump in both feet, and you have to make sure you get it right, or you're out a significant amount of money.
Yeah.
And it's no different now, and everything's more expensive now. I can't even imagine. Like, I don't even know. Vinny does all that. So it's like, I don't know. But, for me, design was I wanted to fill that need, and I wanted to be part of those people I was watching. I was so impressed by them.
And we're so
I
glad you
mean,
did because your voice is out there and
oh,
your beautiful work is out there. So we're so glad that you and
thank
and
you.
Vinny and honorable thank you to Vinny as well for jumping in. Kind of, you grabbed his hand and jumped in with him, but jumping in that lake there. So
He was terrified, but he did it. And he was my first employee.
that's all.
Yeah, like, he really was. He was shipping, customer service, product. He ordered all product, he organized and inventoried all product. He answered emails, he did all of that, and I did videos and taught classes, and we did that, and that's how we started together. I mean, it took a little while for that to happen, but he was our first employee, and it was funny because he looks back now and he goes, "And I doubted you." And I'm like, "Well, I did too, to be honest, let's be fair. I wasn't sure either." But he didn't wanna start, but once he did, now this is what he does with me. He's here, we work together every day, so
That's amazing. What a blessing. That is so
yeah, it
wonderful to
is.
be able to have that. And what a great. That's a great story. That's a great.
You know, what a blessing that we like each other.
Yes.
That's what I think. We like to work together.
My husband and I did as well. We were very fortunate. We were together in an enclosed space for a very long time together. So and that's what we would always say. We're so lucky that we really, really love each other,
Yep.
because we worked well together under pressure in tight spaces when we were alone
Mhm.
for a long period of time. It is a blessing to be able to do that.
It's not for everyone. I
No.
know that. It's not. I have friends that are like, "I could never do it." I respect it, but
Yeah.
we enjoy going to work together, and we enjoy going home together.
Yeah.
We're very together all the time, and it's probably people probably don't believe that, but it's true.
We
We just like each other.
we were dating and we lived in a house that had no internet. Um, and in the middle of nowhere, there was like the town had one little grocery store, and that was it. We had no phone, no internet. Wi-Fi didn't work on your phone, so you literally had no communication. And we watched DVDs together, and he'd go to work, I'd go to school, and that was it. And so we lived up in the middle of the woods in northern Maine. And so we figured if we could survive there, we could survive
We can
anywhere.
work together. That's it. Yep.
Well, this has been so great. And now you know we have the random word generator that is coming your way. And sometimes the little crafty gnomes jump in and help. Some days they're pretty quiet. So you never know what you're going to get. All you have to do is tie it back to crafting. And we do allow these 6 degrees of, as I call it, crafty Kevin Bacon. I don't know if he's really crafty or not, but the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon separation in crafts. Okay, are you ready?
I think I am, but I'm probably not. Let's just do it.
Let's just jump in.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, this is funny. Your first word is lake.
Blue. That was it.
That is great. We just talked about you jumping in a lake and it's lake.
And we looked in a lake. We jumped both feet. I should have said both feet. That's what I get.
Yes. Now, what's your favorite blue? Do you like the darker blues, light blues? Where do you fall on the blues?
Periwinkle.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm gonna do blue, I like a periwinkle blue. Yeah.
Yeah. It's such a beautiful, beautiful.
Like your blouse today. I don't know if that's exactly the color, but that color is really pretty.
Thank you. I'm a blue. I love blue. I love blue.
Do you?
Just, yeah, that's my favorite out of the gate. Okay, your second one is baking.
Recipe card.
That's a good one. That's a very good one. And you can make beautiful books like we were talking about earlier. So if you guys want to try that, you can make beautiful, beautiful books. And your final word is circle.
Wreath.
That's an excellent one, especially with a stamp wheel like right on your shoulder, kind of.
What's funny is, so I took this decor online quiz to find out what your decor style was.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what my decor style is, and apparently I'm Scandinavian farmhouse, if that's a thing.
Oh.
Scandinavian farmhouse. But my daughter-in-law has decided none of that is correct, and that my decorating style is wreath.
Oh,
That's it,
okay.
wreath. Because I have I think we counted, and I had 19 wreaths in eye shot in my living room, dining room combination in all different sizes and in different places. So when you said circle, it has to be wreath.
So circles are like, they're your shape. Like,
Apparently,
yeah.
I think hexagons are, because I love hexagons, but she says circle. No matter what I look at, I'll go, "Oh, Taylor, I like that." She's like, "Circle." That's what she'll do every time.
It's funny where we think something's our favorite and somebody else will point out, no, you use this all the time. And you're like, oh, wait a minute, I do. It's funny.
Mhm.
We think we know our favorites, but sometimes our friends know our favorites better than we do.
They do.
I guess it's the outside looking in. So,
Yep.
well, thank you so much. It has been so lovely to have you come have a visit with us at Altenew and have a crafty chat and get to know you better. And make sure you guys check out. You could become a Made It as well in the group. So make sure to check out. And again, thank you so much for joining us.
I enjoyed every second of it. Thank you so much.
And congratulations on the grandbabies that are brand new. Yay,
Thank
grandbabies.
you. I get to meet him in 2 days. We got to travel to Texas, but I'm headed out tomorrow to go see him.
So exciting. Oh, yeah. There we go. Okay. And thank you everybody for joining us for another Craft Your Life podcast. We love having you join us. Don't forget to join in next month to see who our amazing guest is going to join us to find out all about them. Until next time, thank you so much for allowing us to help you craft your life. Goodbye, everyone. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and everywhere you can find podcasts to keep up with every new episode. Email us at support@altenew.com with your feedback. And don't forget to craft your life.
Hello crafters, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. Thanks for watching!